One of the biggest mistakes that people make when it comes to their grocery budgets is actually going to the grocery store when they don't really need to. Let's face it, all of us get to Friday night, open the refrigerator door, and think there is nothing in there to eat. So what do? That's right, we call that fast food restaurant. But today, I'm going to show you exactly how you can frugally plan, clean out your refrigerator, and make sure that you are planning that menu for the next few days with zero food waste in mind. Hi, I'm Hope from Under the Median. This channel is all about frugality and spending less and saving more. Welcome to Frugal Friday Tips, where every Friday we give you quick, easy wins. And tonight we're talking about your food budget. Now, one of the questions that we've gotten frequently on the channel is, tell us exactly how you menu plan, and please give us a good idea of what you actually eat during the week. So I'm going to do both of those things in this program. So I'm going to start out by pointing out this food in front of me on the table. This is everything, literally. This is all of my perishable food that I had in the house. This is everything that was in my refrigerator or sitting out on the countertop. Now, it doesn't look like a lot of food, but I'm going to show you exactly how I use these items completely, and just grabbing a few items, literally a handful of items from my pantry and my freezer. I'm going to create a menu plan to feed my family of four for an entire week using just this. Are you in? Great. Let's go. Zero food waste does two things. It helps us to actually use what we already have in the house that we have already spent our money on. And the second thing that zero food waste does is that it helps us to save money, because the less often you're in the grocery store, the less money you're going to spend. Now, I mentioned that all this food in front of me was what I had available. Now, I could have just pulled it out, put it out on the counter, and started planning from there. But what I did first of all was actually take a written inventory, because what your eye sees written out, you're actually going to remember, and it's going to be that connection between your brain and your hand that actually helps you establish in your mind exactly what you have available and how you plan to use it. So I do this once a week. Now, I'm going to show you a variety of forms actually during this video. And if you like the forms, all of these forms, plus the detailed instructions that I'm giving you in this video, and a link back to this video so you'll be sure to be able to find the video again. It's all available in our ebook, Menu Planning Made Easy. So I'll make sure that there's a link to that menu planning book in the description of the video so you'll be able to find it very quickly and easily. All right, so we have our perishable food inventory, and you'll notice, I think there were like 13 items available. So the next thing that I did was I devised a recipe plan. Immediately in my mind, I began sort of coordinating these items off, if you will, into different kinds of dishes that I knew I could make with these items. The first thing that occurred to me was I had like a couple of cups of broccoli available. I had one big potato. I had the ends of the asparagus. I had a couple of onions. I had 3 tomatoes. And I thought, all right, soup. It's just screaming soup, isn't it? Because vegetable soup is the quickest and easiest thing you can do when you have odds and ends and just a whole variety of vegetables sitting in your refrigerator. In fact, some people call it kitchen sink soup. Some people call it end of the week vegetable soup, whatever you want to call it. I make it about once a week. Now, the next thing I want to point out, I'm just going to move a couple of things off of here so you can be sure to see them. All right, I'm going to move this stuff out of the way. Look what's left on this cutting board. Some of the items left on this cutting board are actually things that some people toss into the garbage and don't use. So that's the next tip, is be sure when you are menu planning that you're using all of the vegetables and all of the fruit parts that are actually edible. So let's talk about a couple of these things. This is actually a pile of about half of the broccoli that I had available. So you got the little florets, but you know what else is in here? I want you to notice. Can you see that? That's the leaves from the broccoli plant that are cut up and I put in there. And if I dig a little bit there, you're going to find a piece of the broccoli stem that I'm also using for that soup. So some people actually don't realize that all of those parts of the broccoli are edible. So be sure that you cut them up, especially if you're making vegetable soup. You can cut them up in small pieces, throw them in the pot, and by the time they cook down with the rest of the vegetables, they're very tender and you can actually eat them. So make sure that you're using all the parts that are available. Now, the asparagus that I had was very young, very tender asparagus, and none of the ends of the asparagus was terribly large in diameter. So all I did was cut off the last 3 or 4 inches of each of the asparagus spears, and then I took all of those asparagus ends and I just sliced them into small, even pieces, and this also is going to go into the vegetable soup. So make sure, once again, you're using all the parts of the vegetables that are available. The next step that I take when I start to recipe plan is I literally start dividing all of the ingredients that I have available up into smaller piles on the table. So for instance, I know that the asparagus and some of the green onions and just a few of the radishes, I'm going to combine those with a vinaigrette and I'm going to make a cold asparagus rice salad. Now over here we have almost identical ingredients, but this is going to be a hot dish. So the other half of the asparagus is here along with a few of the green onions and one of the tomatoes. I'm going to make that into a tomato asparagus side dish and it will be served warm. When you put things in piles, you're able to really easily see, number one, what ingredients you're using, what's left to use, and that you're using up everything that you have. As I'm looking for recipes, I've already written down all of my available perishable ingredients on my fresh ingredient planner. Y'all, this makes it so easy to menu plan. Across this side, you will see every single one of my fresh ingredients that is available, where it's located in my house. Over here, you will see the quantity that I have available of that fresh ingredient. And then over on the far side, you will see that I am filling in those blanks with recipes that I plan to make with each of those fresh ingredients. As I'm considering in my mind the different recipes that I could make with all of my main ingredients, I'm also Googling different recipes with those combinations of ingredients. So what I'm able to do in very short order is to come up with a menu planner. Now, you can do a weekly menu planner or you can do a topical menu planner. This literally is my favorite way to menu plan. Now let's take a look at all of the dishes that I have planned to make out of these ingredients, and then I'm going to show you exactly what I am grabbing from my freezer and exactly what I am adding from my pantry. And then the last thing we'll do is look and see, is there anything that we actually have to go to the grocery store for? As we look at the topical menu planner, you'll see that I'm making individual personal pizzas for my family. Now, those personal pizzas are coming from a cup and a half of marinara sauce that I had left over in the refrigerator, and also 2 vegan sausage links that I had already cooked and in the freezer. When I saw those 2 things were available, I thought individual pizzas. Perfect thing to do. I'm going to make kidney bean burgers. I grabbed kidney beans out of the freezer. I had cooked kidney beans. I grabbed a quart size freezer container of those out. I'm going to create 2 meals of kidney bean burgers. And then the third main dish is going to be creamy vegetables over rice. I'm going to make 2 meals out of that. And once again, those vegetables that are going to form the basis of that, I did grab out of my freezer. We're going to have 2 side dishes, Creole green beans. Those are good for 2 meals, and believe me, they're always good. This is my adaptation of my mother's recipe that I had growing up. And the second side dish you'll see there, skillet, asparagus, and tomatoes. That's good for at least 1 meal. We'll be making 2 salads, asparagus rice salad for 2 meals. It made a lot of salad, guys. And I have a cute little raw veggie tray that I made up with just the leftover vegetables that I had available. Because sometimes your family just wants vegetables to crunch and munch on. And then finally, there's one soup this week. That's that kitchen sink vegetable soup, and it's good for at least 2 meals. Now, as you look down this menu planner, you will see that what I have done is create enough food for 7 main dishes and enough side dishes to get us through the week. Let's talk just briefly about what I had to grab out of my freezer and what I grabbed out of the pantry. As that menu plan is starting to get filled out, I'm realizing there are some additional ingredients that I'm going to need to grab or I'm going to need to buy from the store in order to create these recipes. Now, one of the things that I do is make sure that I know what's in my pantry and I know what's in my freezer. So some of these recipes, let's say that it calls for cauliflower, but I've got broccoli, I'm going to substitute. All right. So make substitutions whenever possible and make sure they're common sense substitutions so that you can go ahead and make all of these recipes without actually heading out to the grocery store. Now over here, you'll notice on this side, what I've made note of now is that recipe planner is starting to be filled in and I've left a space over here for each one of the recipes. Any of those recipes that needs extra ingredients that I don't have on the table in front of me that isn't a perishable item, I'm going to make sure that I know what to grab. I'm going to know where the location is of those items, the quantity that I need for that recipe, and I'm going to need to know what those ingredients are. All of the ingredients you see on this list, so what I'm showing you is an actual real life application of the strategies that I'm teaching you. So this is what you will see me make for my family, and this is what I grabbed out of my freezer and out of my pantry. This is everything that I needed from the freezer to add to those fresh ingredients I showed you. So we have 2 vegan sausage links. Those are already pre-cooked and they were in the freezer. Those are going to be added to our personal pizzas. Here we have 2 containers of cooked kidney beans. Now you can use canned, but the truth is it's actually less expensive to get the dried beans and cook them in bulk and then put them into the freezer. I have 1 quart bag of cut up tomatoes. I have 1 gallon freezer bag of mixed vegetables. I got 25 pounds, guys, so I got these mixed vegetables for 79 cents a pound. And then over here, we have some blanched frozen green beans that were left over from last year, and I am trying to use up some of this produce that is still in the freezer from last year. Here are the items that I brought out from the pantry. We have a can of pineapple chunks, a 5-pound bag of flour. This is going to be for our homemade flour tortillas. And then I have 4 cups of rice. Now, in addition to this, there are actually a couple of things that I'm going to get from the grocery store. So I have to admit to you that when I got ready to do this video, I had broken my own rules, y'all. I had not crossed some things off in my mind from the pantry, and I honestly thought that I had tomatoes in the pantry, and I thought that I had olives. I was like really sure I had olives in the pantry. I don't. So I have to be honest, could we make personal pizzas without having olives? Maybe. But do we really want to? I don't think so. So olives is going to be on my list. I'll get that from Aldi. I'll probably get 2 cans of olives from Aldi. And I'm also going to get a couple of cans of tomatoes from Aldi. Now, the third thing I may or may not get from Aldi, it depends on how much energy I have, are buns for our bean burgers. I like to bake bread, but I don't know if I'm going to have enough time in the next couple of days. So if I feel like I'm not going to, it's going to be Aldi buns for the bean burgers. Okay, it is 24 hours later and I am finished cooking. I wanted to put everything out on the table and let you see how it went, and how much food that it actually made. Now, as always, whenever you plan to do this kind of cooking, some things go according to Hoyle and other things not so much. So some of the things that actually turned out a little better than I anticipated they would, the creamed vegetables over the rice, this was actually half of what it made. Y'all, Larry and the boys were hungry, and so they ate the other half of this.
They were good.
But yeah, and so this is actually half of what it made. You can see this is like a really big bowl. So I had it done on the schedule to last for 2 meals, and I'm really anticipating that that there may be some left for somebody to take to lunch tomorrow. So one of the things that we always do when something like this is left over, you can always roll it up inside a tortilla and add a little bit of salsa or some other seasonings to it, and you can actually make it go a little bit farther that way. One of the other things that went just a little bit better than I anticipated it would, this was a new bean burger recipe I'd never tried, and it made more than I anticipated that it would. So it made 8 of the bean burgers, and so this is going to last for 2 meals instead of just 1. But as you can see, this is everything that it made. Now, you're probably wondering, if you can see, this is actually still hot. Y'all, I just took this off the stove. This is some of my homemade marinara sauce. Now, when I did the first part of the video, I said I got leftover marinara sauce. It's going to go for individual pizzas. Well, I had overestimated what was left. I had estimated there was about 1.5 cups of marinara sauce left. No, it was nowhere near that. So I did wind up grabbing a couple of extra things out of the pantry. Wanted to let you know that I had to do that. So I grabbed some tomato sauce and some tomato paste to actually make an extra recipe of the marinara sauce. So now this is clearly like plenty. So instead of 4 of the pizzas, I planned to make 8. And I decided literally at the 9th hour that I didn't really want to put the individual pizzas on homemade tortillas. Instead, I decided that I would go ahead, because I was really deciding whether I wanted to buy buns from Aldi or whether I wanted to just make them from scratch. I'm making buns from scratch for the bean burgers, so I did not buy buns from Aldi. So since I was already making bread dough, I decided to make pizza calzones with that bread dough instead of making the little individual pizzas for everybody. So yeah, I'm going to make 8 of the pizzas, 8 of the calzones. So that actually is going to feed us for 2 meals instead of my anticipated 1 meal. The calzones just came out of the oven, so I wanted to show you what they looked like. They're still a little bit warm. I made 8 of these, and these will be for 2 of the dinners this week. Now, in case you are wondering, out of all the ingredients I showed you, was there anything left over? Yes, there was. 1 onion. This is all that was left over. Now, one more thing to note is that I showed you the ingredients that I grabbed from my freezer and from my pantry. There were a few miscellaneous things like some herbs and spices, some oil. There was like a few nuts that I threw on top of the salad and some raisins. So little miscellaneous things. I didn't put that in this video, but there, just so you know, there were a few other things that I had to pull together in order to make this menu plan. But the vast majority of everything that I had to use for my house, I actually showed you in the video. Now, if you're interested in seeing the exact menu plan and you would like links to the recipes, I did not want you to have to hunt and peck all over the place to have to find them. So what I did was I put everything together. I told you the titles of the recipes, showed you the menu plan, some photos of the finished dishes, and I provided links to the recipes. So I did a post for the website telling you all that information. You will find a link to that post in the description of this video. And remember, if you liked all of the forms that I showed you throughout this video, then those are available in the Menu Planning Made Easy ebook, and you will find a link to that ebook in the description of this video. I would love to know, do you do this? Do you plan meals in advance? Do you plan them at least a week at a time? Do you plan meals in such a way that you're using up everything that is fresh in your home so that nothing is rotting and you're avoiding that throwing things out in the garbage and wasting money because you've already paid for something. Tell me what that looks like in your home, and I would love to learn from you and get some tips and strategies of what really works for you when you do this. Be sure to give the video a like and a thumbs up, and we will see you next week for the next Frugal Friday tips. And if you're one of those end of the week, be tempted to call out for fast food people, no worries, I am in that boat with you. Now, we're gonna stop that. I'm gonna think about how I want to really introduce this.
How about in a car with them? When I was in high school, I worked at a local dairy called Shire's Dairy. This was back in 1975. Scary, huh? The ice cream carton in the middle and the quart milk bottle on the right came from Shire's Dairy.